Okay, so this meeting will now commence at 6:05 p.m. The first order of business is roll call. May we please commence roll call?
Hi.
President Wasim Kumar,
Here.
Vice President Hana Ahmed, Vice President Hana Ahmed, Speaker Daisy Stancheva,
Present.
Treasurer Anshu,
I'm here.
DIC Chair Bayan Ahmad,
Present.
PRC Chair Aitana,
Hello, I'm present.
Student Campus Life Chair Michelle,
Present.
Secretary Daniela,
Present.
Legislative Affairs Chair Dahlia,
Present.
Did you ask about the representatives, or should Danny take over that?
Yeah, Daniela, would you like to take over rep?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
haven't been called, but I'm here.
Okay, I'll note that. Thank you so much. Okay, so for representatives, Representative Petineo.
Here.
Thank you so much. Representative Oyefeso.
I'm here.
Thank you so much. Representative Ruiz.
I'm here.
Thank you. Representative Nehi. Representative Jada Nehi. Thank you so much. Representative Aranda Ortiz. Representative Aranda Ortiz. Oh, thank you so much. Representative Taylor.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Abdel Salam. Representative Malak Abdel Salam. Thank you. Representative Silvaraj.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Almendras.
Present.
Thank you. Representative B.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Fernandez.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Villagomez.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Hack.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Nuruyen.
Present.
Thank you so much. Representative Suresh.
Present.
Thank you so much. Representative Bilba Sigamani.
Okay, I'm present.
Thank you so much. Representative Khan.
Present.
Thank you so much. Representative Malik.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Ovide.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Henry.
Present.
Thank you. And Representative Chris Mann.
Present.
Thank you so much. Those are all our representatives.
All right, thank you so much. The next order of business is reading and approval of the minutes. Please take this time to read over the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, if not, then the minutes will stand as approved. The next order of business is reading and approval of the agenda. Please take this time to read over the agenda. Are there any corrections to the agenda? Okay, so if not, then the agenda will stand as approved. The next order of business is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Okay, it doesn't seem like it. So we can move on to the next order of business, which is guest speakers, and there are no guest speakers tonight. The next order of business is ex officio reports. May we please have the report of the advisor?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. The only real point that I have tonight is a reminder from Student Center East that the students that are using the USG office need to follow the same rules as the building. And so if the building is closing at 5 p.m., the office for student government also needs to be closing at 5 p.m. So if you find yourself in there using the space, please know that when the building is being closed, that it's time for the office to close as well. I know in pre-COVID times that timeline might be different, but they do need the space and the time to be able to sanitize everything for the next day. And the other thing is that I think they're going to give you all about a week, but within the next week or so, the building managers will start approaching folks to have them leave the building when it's time to close. So please follow that and do your best to stay within those parameters. But that's all I have. Dre, I'm not sure if you have anything.
I don't have anything additional to add. Thanks, Keith.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, if not, then the report of the advisors will be filed. Next, we have the report of the student trustee. Is the student trustee present? Okay, it does not seem so. So in that case, we can move on to the next order of business, which is officer reports. So may we please have the report of the president? And before you begin, do you think it would be possible to put up the meeting packet for everyone to see?
Yeah, sure. I can screen share. Is that good? Is this visible for everyone? Awesome, thank you. Oh yeah. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope that we're on like week 8 now, I think, right? So I hope week 8's going good. We have had like a couple of different things in a couple of different areas. So I just broke it down by subject area. But we had like a debrief on our campus conversation on public safety, both with the Abolition, GEO, UIC, Faculty Union, and USG. We kind of talked about this. We also talked about potentially hosting another program similar to this in the spring, as well as like future like coffee hours and drop-in discussions about this topic. We also did draft like a little letter in response to what the chancellor had put out last week with regards to like their moves towards race equity. So of course, like for us, like we're always trying to like push administration as best as we can to really like kind of go out of their way to resolve the demands of students. So we talked about some of the things that they're doing that is like positive and some of the things that they could definitely like be working towards to improve on. And then I also like met with some of the members of the public safety board to like answer some of their questions specifically regarding like the campus conversation that we had, just like really like focusing on the like police divestment movement. And we're working on putting together like a little FAQ sheet as well to send to these individuals. And then with regards to like academics, like I was able to work with Representative Taylor on completing our ethnic studies general education requirement resolution. So you'll see that later on. It's a pretty hefty document. And I'm looking forward to meeting with the rest of the interdisciplinary department heads this week to talk further about the specific courses that we're going to be including because we haven't fully completed that yet. And we want to make sure that everything goes according to their wishes as well there. And then also like I was able to work with Representative Obire on putting together our universal pass grading system resolution to really kind of push the ball on what we can have this semester in terms of like being able to support students through this really extraordinary time that everyone's kind of making it through. I was also able to meet with one of the heads of the ethnic studies departments, with the director of the global Asian studies department, and sort of talk about a resolution, like get some feedback, get some advice on where to like how to move forward. And then looking forward to like the rest of the meetings, hopefully this week. And then I also got a report back from the Academic Senate with regards to our proposal on respondus. Each of the senators on like the various committees like put out specific kind of descriptions of their feedback of what they thought of what we put. A lot of it was really positive. There were some professors who were like, yeah, like this makes perfect sense. Of course, like we shouldn't have this in classrooms. Some of it was like a little like kind of ambivalent, like, yeah, like I see that there's some value here. But yeah, so overall, though, the Senate committee is looking to recommend that the provost review this and put out like a form of like best practices and really kind of consider which programs could be moving away from this and which programs this might be something that we retain in. I'm also going to be at the Senate meeting this Wednesday as well to answer any additional questions. And then I met with some of the student senators as well to kind of discuss discuss this resolution, as well as to discuss our future resolutions to kind of help them like work through some talking points. So that of course, like if you're a student senator, you're not like just kind of stuck there asked to represent like our resolutions without any like really like feedback other than what's on the paper there. And then like we've been talking about specifically, like we have been like really kind of trying to take a stand against this new DHS proposed rule change. We put together this really, really neat document alongside the ISSEO, which is another student organization, to like help students understand like how to put together public comment in an effective way, in a really easy way, and how to access all the resources you might need to do that. You have until the 25th, which is later this week, I believe, to submit public comment. So if you have a chance, if you would like to, like, please do submit public comment on this federal proposal. And then there was a public comment like party for students to like put public comment. It actually happened right before this meeting. And then like the last piece, like we had like the student perks, like phone banking this weekend, and just like looking over like the numbers, like it was something like 26,000 students reached out to over the course of the past week, which is pretty amazing. And then we also had this like student leader like roundtable hosted by the Student Activities Board. And there were two like really big things that came out of that. One was that Vice Chancellor Rex Tolliver actually offered to double our budget for student work funding, so for external student work funding, which is pretty amazing. And then we also had like many other student organizations that were there, like the RHA, the National Panhellenic Council, SAB, like the USC Radio. So they all kind of want to like work with us to really kind of push forward some of the work that we're doing and work on some of like the larger campaigns. Like for example, like with this respondus resolution, based on what kind of comes out of this, we could definitely like push forward with like a more kind of structured campaign of like emails and other sorts of like petitions, whatever, like the works. And then also we did like a lot of work this week with like Bayan, specifically on like a flu vaccine campaign. We put together an article for UIC Today and other sorts of things like that. So if you want to read about like what we're doing, like it's actually like now all there as well. And last thing is we do have our Title IX, like our Shake It Up series this week on Wednesday from 3 to 4. So please do attend if you have time. It's going to be a great opportunity to really hear like student testimonials and hear about some of the experiences that people have gone through. And that they have like really been brave enough to be willing to share. So that's everything for me. I yield for any questions.
Yeah, I have a question. So for the 20,000 external org funding, has that been confirmed or?
Yeah, literally Anshu, you said like just send me the amount and I will match it. So if it's he's just waiting on you to send him whatever, like however you want to send it like formally.
All right, cool, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, So if not, then the report of the president will be filed. Next, we have the report of the vice president.
Hi everyone, good evening. Hope you guys are all doing well. So, updates regarding the Mental Health Coalition. We met one more time to kind of touch base and delineate future responsibilities and tasks. So, we have a better idea of kind of what our end goal is by the end of the semester and what we want to get done before then. And then also to kind of ensure both sustainability and a broader scope and perspective. We've been recruiting from various places. So some of you guys have joined recently, but also we've reached out to Roosevelt University, and then emails were sent out to a few other organizations like PHE and Hope for the Day. So we're waiting to hear back from them. The questions for the student survey have been formulated, and now we just kind of need to put that into Qualtrics. And then get those approved using some of like the survey building resources that exist on campus, and then also just kind of get that looked at so that everyone can kind of sign off and say that, okay, yes, this is the information that we do want to collect. And then we're waiting on our like advisor slash faculty contact to send our faculty survey out to collect responses and data from that. In terms of other projects, I am waiting on a response from Bonfire to kind of set up a meeting with them again to see how USG can support their efforts. Still looking for the bill text regarding the student government resolution at the University of Illinois in Champaign. And then right now I'm also participating in facilitating a week-long series of events regarding minorities in academia. It's an effort that's led by a student org. The acronym is MAPS, but I believe it stands for minorities in minorities for something pre-health students, basically. So they're kind of spearheading that effort. But yeah, that is it for me. If there are any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so if not, the vice president's report will be filed. Next, we have the report of the treasurer.
Hey everyone, nice to see you guys. So first thing in the report is the deputy treasurer has been announced. So congratulations, Mohammed. President Hassan has informed me of the double increase he brought up in his report. So that's exciting news. I've been reaching out to some orgs for the external org funding, and now we have an extra 10 grand to spend. Been reaching out to RHA, UIC SAB, UIC WRLC, and U Spoon at UIC, just to discuss like events or things that they want to have, and I'll keep you guys updated on the responses. So if you guys have any questions, this is the time.
Are there any questions? Okay, so if not, then the report of the treasurer will be filed. And next we have my report. So give me 1 second. Okay, so for my report, I have scheduled meetings with representatives that are starting tomorrow. This is mandatory for all representatives. Even if you are not a new member, if you've been here for a few years, it is still mandatory for all representatives to sign up for a meeting with me. Please sign up for a 15-minute slot. The only exception is people who did not attend the new member or new members who did not attend the new member orientation. To my knowledge, there's 3 members who did not. But if you did not, please also sign up for a 45-minute meeting with me. So that would be 3 consecutive slots. And I give me 1 second. I will post the link. And hopefully you guys can go and do it right now. Uh, okay, let me know if it works. So go sign up if you haven't already. It is again mandatory for all representatives, and it'll happen this week. But if you cannot meet with me at the times that I've provided, please do let me know, and I'll be happy to reschedule. Uh, and I will send everybody that I'm meeting on that day, I will send them a Zoom link in the morning. And if at for whatever reason you have a meeting scheduled already for the next day or the same day, but you cannot make it, that's also fine. Just please do send me an email so that we could reschedule. The next thing is please make sure you have access to Box. Um, I know that there's some people who have been having a lot of trouble and are still having trouble. Um, please try a couple more times, and if not, then we can talk more about it during our check-in, and hopefully we can get that to work. Um, Additionally, remember to submit your certification of academic eligibility form. Either send it to you can either email it to myself or you can email it to the USG advisors directly. It is required for everybody in USG. And additionally, as I mentioned in the eBoard group chat, the advisors have stated that it is also required for eBoard members. So if you are an eBoard member and still not submitted, please do that as well. And that concludes my report. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
So for the academic form, when some of us we like ran for positions or to be in USG, it was a 2-year term, and we already turned in an academic eligibility form with that application. So do we still have to do it even though we're still currently in our term?
I think that would be a question for the advisors, but could the advisors step in, please?
I would say go ahead and have the form completed again, just so that we have on record that you're still in academic eligibility.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? So if you're having issues with connecting with your advisor, if they haven't responded or they just for some reason you can't reach out to them, send a message to the advisors, to the USG advisors. Let them know that you've been trying to contact your advisor and that you cannot reach them, and you can just go from there. And yeah, any other questions? Okay, so if not, then my report will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Chief of Staff.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you had a good week and hope midterms is over for all of you. So let's get to the report. It is a very short report. So first and foremost, the DHS policy, which was initiated, the proposal, we did a couple of things, Comment Party, along with the ISSEO. It's another international student org on campus. Around 15 to 20 students showed up. They shared their comments with us. That was the Comment Party, and it was an all right response rate. You have until the 28th to submit further comments for this against or however you feel about this proposal. Secondly, was the respondents resolution that was put forward. The Senate meeting is on the 21st. We shall be attending. I shall be attending along with Watson. And like he said, some professors were for a ban against the application, whereas some others, had reservations. The East and West Provost Research Mixer has been postponed from tomorrow to the 28th. So, and there'll be an updated link which will be shared. Finally, the Chief of Staff from the Northern Illinois University CC'd a lot of us from different universities, U Chicago, UIUC, and a lot of the different universities in the Chicagoland area. And we want to, in order to organize better, to get ideas flowing. So we will have a meeting by the end of this week. That was a good initiative from their side. We responded, and I'll keep you updated on that. Finally, like I said, to supplement the resolution that we put forward for the responders um, resolution, I had a conduct board meeting with Michelle. We will have another one scheduled for Wednesday, and there will be a paper released by Friday. So I'll keep you updated with all of that, and that is it from my side. Over to you, DZ.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so if no more questions, then the report of the Chief of Staff will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee Chair.
Hello, everyone. So over the past week, first thing we did was me and Aitana met with Christina from CAASE. I forgot what it stands for. Well, it's like the Chicago Alliance for against exploitation of or sexual exploitation, and I actually do know what it stands for. Okay, and then we discussed how she will be facilitating our Know Your Rights Title IX regulations. That'll be focused on the Title IX regulations, the new regulations. Um, she's a lawyer actually, and there are some like limits to how much she can like consult us, and like that's what she told us. And but she'll be presenting during the event, and she will also be looking at the and she will also be looking at the graphics that Aitana created, and like to for feedback, right, to give us feedback. The flu vaccine campaign, so far it's going well. The last update was 7,000 vaccines, so I don't know if there's more. I'm pretty sure there's more, but we're trying to get more people to vaccine themselves, right? So what we need you guys to do is volunteer for. I sent out an email today. I hope it reached everyone. We need you to volunteer at the Student Center West, at the tables. So we'll have a table in front of Centennial Room. Watson, can you confirm where the table will be at?
Yeah, it should be. You just said it should be in the Centennial Room, so it should be on the third floor at UIC.
Okay, third floor then. Okay.
Of
So
SCE, sorry.
of Student Center West. So it'll be on West Campus. And if you guys could volunteer, I put 1 hour slots. So like 1 hour maximum, like we would really appreciate it. And yeah, if you could help us out with that. And yeah, so I hope you all got my email. So I'll be checking if you guys are filling out the slots. And then the last thing is that we're still working, right? We're still working with the cultural centers for the Know Your Rights police and protesting. Some centers were against inviting the police. So my idea for inviting the police was just to help them connect with the students, because like I know there's been a lot going on. So that's why like my idea was, oh, like, hey, they could come talk to the students, connect with them, and students could be less afraid, like just specifically of UIC police, because like I don't want students to be afraid, right? But they were against it. So I'm like, okay, we will invite them. So we're not gonna invite them to the event. Like they won't speak at it, but they might show up. But they won't be speaking at it. And then, Watson, if you could still send me the contact information for that lawyer thing you were talking about. I forgot what the thing is. What was it?
Yeah, I think I did actually. I think I CC'd both of you in an
You
email.
did?
Yeah, with someone from the National Lawyers Guild, like the one John Marshall, and
Right.
then also for someone from UIC Abolition. I can resend you the
Oh,
email though if
okay.
that would help.
Yeah, no, you don't have to. Then if you CC'd me, then I definitely got it. Oh my god, I was like getting stressed about this information because the Arab Center were like, oh, we'll send it. They never sent it. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I'll send them an email, and then the girl, Aisha from Graduate Student Council, she was supposed to send emails to John Marshall Law School to invite people, like to facilitate the event, and that's been going badly. Like she's been slow, so she actually today commented. So like we have a shared document, right? And today she commented on it. So I'll be checking that. Like she just commented right before the meeting. So like this should be happening fast. I don't know why it's taking so long to like just put this together, but it'll be like it'll probably be the first week of November, and hopefully we'll have a good turnout. And then lastly, I want to remind you, like Watson reminded you, and I want to remind you again of the Shake It Up event. That's gonna be Wednesday, 3 p.m. If you guys could go to Can, like UIC Can, I can also send the link to sign up for the event in the chat, and show up like for a little bit. That would be really cool because we're co-sponsoring the event, right? So we like want people to be there, and because like you'll learn a lot there. Wait, was I muted for like the last 2 seconds or something?
Yes.
How long was I muted for? What was the last thing you heard?
Like 10-15 seconds, I think.
What was the last thing you heard?
Yeah, I think you're fine. You just said that you wanted everyone to attend the Campus Advocacy Network event.
Oh yeah. I'll send the link to sign up in the chat. And I yield for questions. Thank you, Watson.
Are there any questions?
This is not a question, but I was just thinking that a way for us to maybe motivate more people to get vaccinated is that maybe because we're gonna have a table there, maybe in the table we can have like candy or something, and then after they get vaccinated, we can give them a cupcake or whatever, and then we can also promote these on our social media. So it could be like vaccination cupcake day or whatever, and then people will be motivated to go.
Can I comment on that?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I feel like that's a good idea, Daniela. But since we're currently in a COVID pandemic, I think people might be, skeptical of the cupcakes, since that could serve some potential health issues. It's a good idea though, like to like hand out some.
Thank you, Aitana. Anything else? Other questions for Bayan? Okay, so if not, the report of the chairwoman of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee will be filed. And next, we have the report of the Legislative Affairs Committee. Sorry about that.
Hi guys, hope everybody is well. I'm gonna make my report nice and sweet, but I met with Nikki from SLC and Joy from CSI about a Party to the Polls early voting event. Those are all things that are planned to be happening from the 28th to the 30th. There will be more information in the next meeting in regards to that. I met with my committee. Our meetings are at 4:30 on Friday. We're going to basically be focusing on these last kind of voter registration pushes for the next 2 weeks. And we've started off on a couple shorter tasks, but nothing tangible is really going to be going out other than like emails and maybe one-on-ones for the, I'd say, coming 2 weeks up until elections. And then we can start planning on some more specific events and legislation to go out after that. As I said earlier, the meeting with Nikki and Joy were about Party to the Polls. It's usually in the inner circle, but because of COVID, it's not going to be able to be there. So it's going to be I would say, well, depending on which org is going to be hosting that day, it'll be a different length, but it's really just a push to make sure that students are going to early vote and understand what it means to early vote. And then we were just looking to, there's probably going to be a follow-up meeting this week with Nikki. Nothing is planned yet, but there should be a follow-up meeting to discuss a like night before election day kind of party to the polls thing for election day specifically. That might just be kind of tidbits of information. What can I do to make sure that I'm aware of what's on my ballot, things like that, just for any last minute voters, and really get that last push of voters out there for November 3rd. And then if you, I don't know, I haven't checked the website as of late, but I think there's still a link up for election judging. If that is something you think you can do and feel comfortable doing on November 3rd, I would definitely push you to do so. They pay you for it, and also it's, I think now more than ever, with the targeted amount of election judges being elderly, those people aren't going to be out at the polls. So I think the younger generation should definitely be one to kind of step up and try and fill in those positions. So if you're definitely able to, and if that link is still up, I think you'd probably have maybe this week to register to become an election judge. So yeah, I yield for questions.
Are there any questions? I have a comment. If you sign up to be an election judge and you get picked for it, I think they pay you something like $200 just for one day. So it's easy money, and it's only one day. And I believe that is a holiday at UIC. So I don't think we're going to have school on that day. So you might be able to go. So please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah, November 3rd is a school gets the day off, and also even just for like, I think you have a couple hours or a few courses that you have to take in prep for election judging, and they pay you for those as well. So all around, it's a long day, but they pay you well, and you know, we are going to have the day off. So if you're able to, I would definitely oh, okay, it's only one training class and you get $60 for it. So there's that as well. I see you, girlie. I'm doing it too. So if you guys are able to, please do so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this just off of like shypollworker.com? Like what I saw?
I literally just looked up election judging Chicago.
Yeah, that ChicagoElections.gov and stuff, right?
Yep, it's that one.
Great. Sounds good, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? All right, so if not, then the report of the chairwoman of the Legislative Affairs Committee will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Public Relations Committee chair.
So first off, my
Hey, Aitana. I'm sorry to cut you off. Your mic is really weird.
What do I do?
Hey, Aitana. Yeah, it's just like staticky.
Do you want someone to read your report for you?
What if you try to change your yes, go ahead. It's okay, it happens. I just had a presentation earlier, and the girl's mic was not working properly either, so she also called me.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Fantastic. Okay. So, all right. I have
Do you want to turn off your sound on your laptop or computer? Because it's creating an echo.
all right. Okay. How about now? We good?
Yep, that's good.
Ah, fantastic. All right. So, first off, I had a committee meeting today. It's held on Mondays from 2 to 3 p.m. And my committee members and I have confirmed that this date works for us. There was one member missing, but I'll contact them and see what's up. The PRC deputy chair has been selected. Congratulations to Sarah. Yay! Okay, everybody's clapping. Can please clap? I cannot hear anything. Yay! Awesome. Okay, so I had a weekly meeting with Tim. We changed it to Fridays at 9 a.m. instead of Thursdays at 9 p.m. And then I filed an RFF for Resolution 2020 F1402. And I'm going to present a resolution tonight, which is the part 2 of the previous resolution. I got the Why We Vote video done. I'm proud of it. I will show it tomorrow when I send the link because YouTube takes a long time to upload. And then I made Title IX projects. I sent it to Hassan and Bayan, and now we're just waiting for it to get approved by UAC's Title IX coordinator. Lower the page, please. Awesome. So the website, I started remodeling the newsletter. It looks sleek, chic, and nice. I've had a lot of time to work on the profile, so don't worry, your pre-faces will be up there sometimes. For the USG calendar, we're coordinating with USG personnel, and then for the Adidas apparel, please do not click on the link. It is currently unfinished since I made a mistake. I will be fixing it as soon as I can, and then send the right form for your sizes and what you'd like us to buy sometime this week. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna hang up and then oh never mind. Okay, she hung up. So I think someone asked me to put the link in the chat. I think Itana said that the link is not the link is not correct. Okay. All right. So Itana, could you send us the link via email whenever it's Yep, okay. That sounds good. Yeah, so we'll get the link later. It's not going to be tonight. But yeah. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Okay, so if there are no comments or questions, then the report of the chairwoman of the Public Relations Committee will be filed. And next we have the report of the Student Affairs Committee Chair.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. It's a quick report. So first things first, I attended the Wellness Center's event where myself and other UIC students engaged with new and incoming students on studying, balancing life in college, as well as midterms and adjusting to online classes. It was really, really informative, and I actually walked away with some study tips that I learned that day as well. The next day, which was a Thursday, I attended SAC's meeting with the chancellor to speak on our key asks that included Black student retention, CTA and Metra passes, higher education funding, and more. It seemed like a really nice meeting. I feel like the chancellor was able to kind of understand where we were coming from and what our asks were, and he was supportive of us. I also sent out a form to my committee about our upcoming meetings and goals for the school year. I read over the responses, and the tentative date for our committee meetings will be Friday at 4 p.m. because I had the most votes that like lined up with everyone. If you are in my committee and that time doesn't work for you, just let me know and then we can like make accommodations for it. So starting this week, our first meeting will be Friday at 4 p.m. I also picked the new Student Affairs Deputy Chair, so congratulations to Tega. I'm very excited to see the work that you're going to do for this school year, and I'm just very excited for what this year has to offer for me and my committee, and yeah, I will yield for any questions.
Are there any questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, then the report of the chairwoman of the Student Affairs Committee will be filed. Next, we have the report of the Campus Life Committee Chair.
Hi everyone. I hope you had a good week. I met with the Mental Health Coalition to kind of catch up new members on like what we've been doing and what our next steps are and like what we should what our action items are. And so we kind of delegated tasks during that. We had our first unofficial committee meeting last week from 6:15 to 7:15 on Tuesday, where we discussed some of our initiatives for the semester that I had and our committee members had. Our first actual committee meeting will be tomorrow, 6:15, 7:15, if all goes well. And if any of my committee members cannot make that, please let me know. So we are hoping to plan more smaller events to help boost student engagement and morale, and to flesh out some peer tutoring things for quarantine. And I've received deputy chair applications, and I'll announce who was selected tomorrow at the committee meeting. And that's all for my report today.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for keeping it a secret so that none of us will know until the
Sorry.
next meeting. Are there any questions? Okay, so if there are no more questions, then the report of the chairwoman of the Campus Life Committee will be filed. The next order of business is old business. First, we have Resolution 2020-F4-903, and I was told that you guys tabled this resolution until this meeting. So in order to bring it back into this meeting, we would have to have a vote because it was tabled. So we need a two-thirds majority vote in order to bring it back. So all those in favor of bringing Resolution 2020-F4-903 back to the table, please say aye.
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 Aye. All that oppose, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? Okay, so it looks like we can bring this resolution to the floor. So let me read it. Give me 1 second. Okay. Resolution 2020-F4-903, USG International Caucus. Chief Sponsor, Speaker of the House, Daisy Stancheva. Co-sponsors, President Wasan Kumar. Chief of Staff, Timothy Oman. Whereas the undergraduate student government intends to be inclusive and fair towards all members, and whereas due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the meetings of the USG are held virtually, and whereas some USG members are unable to attend due to various reasons, including being located in different time zones where the USG general body meetings are held at extremely inconvenient hours, then let it be resolved that the USG Executive Board shall hold international caucus meetings for the members who cannot attend the general body meetings. Let it be further resolved that there shall be a new section added to the USG bylaws under Article 12 expectations to reflect the change. The new Section 3 shall state the following. International Caucus Meeting, Subpoint A. USG members who are unable to attend the USG General Body meetings for valid recurring reasons shall be able to attend USG International Caucus meetings. B. The international caucus meetings shall be led by the Vice President at a time that is convenient to those attending. C. The purpose of the international caucus meeting shall be to give representatives the opportunity to discuss and vote on items that are brought up during the general body meeting. D. Members of the international caucus may propose amendments to the resolution, but these must be submitted by before 6 p.m. Chicago Standard Time, Central Standard Time, on Monday of the meeting week. Um, E. Only invited representatives can attend the international caucus meeting. F. If a representative fails to attend both a general body meeting and an international caucus meeting, they shall be considered as absent. G. The international caucus meetings shall only be offered to representatives when the USG is operating on a virtual basis. Let it be further resolved that all absences till the date of this resolution's acceptance due to time zone incongruities are granted clemency. Let it be further resolved that due to the unpredictable nature of the pandemic, the Executive Board shall be allowed to make rapid changes as necessary by discussing plans of action with the attendees of the International Caucus meeting. Okay, so, um, let's see. Give me 1 second. All right. So are there any comments or questions or anything about this resolution? Because I know that there was some debate last week. So would anyone like to say anything else?
I couldn't get to the raise my hand button, so can I make a comment? My main issue, basically, again, like I said last week, is that it's an amendment that's being made to the bylaws. And again, as you said, because of how we have no idea what the future is going to hold for us as students, it's just, I would rather this be in a secondary document that can change semester to semester rather than have something like firm in the bylaws. Yes, there is some amount of movement that can be allowed in this clause within the bylaws, but because the bylaws is such a withstanding document, I advise against us putting them in the bylaws and I would rather us make it a secondary document that we can amend as we go and not have to vote on like this every time.
So I have a comment on that. So in point, oh no, I'm sorry, in the last let it be further resolved, the very last one, it does say that the executive board can be allowed to make rapid changes. So in that case, what we meant when we put this in there was that we can we could make changes without voting on them. So that's kind of like that's that's what we meant by that. So not every single little change has to be voted on. And for the bylaws, they do change every year, either or. Like we've been changing um, the seat vacancy applications. We've been changing this every year, and I think if we can change that every year, I think that this can also be changed every year. Are there any other comments or questions? Megan?
Yeah, hi. Just to clarify, so come next year, say like we're back on campus, would the move just be to then take this out of the bylaws? Or would it be like if it doesn't matter and doesn't affect anything, we just be keeping them in the bylaws, like as a just in case measure?
That's a good point. I think that would depend on the administration that comes after us. It would depend on how they see fit. Um, it could definitely be removed from there if they wanted to remove it, um, or they could keep it for the future. But in this document, it says that in point G, it says that it'll only be offered when we are operating on a virtual basis. So if the meetings are back online, it would not really this cannot happen if we're in person. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Marion.
Yeah, so basically I don't understand why this needs to be placed in the bylaws necessarily. I feel like this could be a secondary document just because I feel like the bylaws are more like a foundational thing, and I feel like this is a reactionary document in response to the pandemic. And while I know we don't know the future or how long this pandemic or virtual meetings will last, I just feel like making a reactionary document that probably isn't going to be in place for a long time doesn't need to be in the bylaws. So I feel like it would be better just to have it like a secondary document or a resolution, if that makes sense.
So what do
And
you mean?
also like, okay, so like the bylaws are kind of it's more of a process to try to change or amend the bylaws. And so by just saying or including that you should be able to make rapid changes as necessary, you can't like go over the process of amending or changing the bylaws just because you wrote this in the resolution is what I mean. Like this doesn't cancel out the voting process, you know?
Yes, I know. What I meant by that was that it would still be in the bylaws. We're not going to remove it from the bylaws without due process. But what we meant by that is that we could like let's say for example we do one thing and then that doesn't work, so we want to do something else the next week. That's kind of what I meant. But I did want to ask, what kind of what kind of document are you envisioning? Because as of right now, we only have the Constitution and bylaws as our official documents, um, and I don't know, how do you envision this, Dahlia?
I'm sorry, I was pressing the wrong button. But what I would envision as a secondary document, it doesn't necessarily need to be the bylaws, it doesn't necessarily need to be a constitution. It would just be a document of a Google Doc, a Word doc that is like put that um, finding the article or the clause or whatever in the bylaws that this would relate to, and then kind of putting it out and explaining why there needs to be additional wording in regards to students who can't make the initial meeting and why it's solely focused on the pandemic. So I would say put this in a secondary document so that those students are still able to attend meetings, but because I think even in that secondary portion that you brought up in rebuttal to my initial point, I don't think that it's safe for us to also just say eBoard can change any part of this clause whenever they want to. Like it's foregoing the voting process and transparency. And yes, it may be better for all of us, but it may not always be the case. And yes, I know that we all have like everybody's best intentions in mind, but I just want to kind of say that that's not something that's universal constantly.
Okay, thank you. Any other
Yeah.
comments or questions?
Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out how to use this raise hands feature. But if I could move to amend, and Daisy, I'll paste this amendment in the chat so you don't have to like write it as I say it. But essentially, the amendment that I'm looking to uh, add here was to replace the text section added to the USG bylaws under expectations, and replace that with a supplementary document to inform the USG bylaws titled Supplementary Document 1.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to amend the section that says section added to the USG bylaws under expectations to now instead say supplementary document to inform the USG bylaws titled Supplementary Document 1.
Okay, so there has been a motion to amend that. So then in that case, is there a second?
I second it.
It has been moved and seconded. So we can vote on this amendment. All those in favor of the said amendment, can you please say aye?
Aye.
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 All that oppose, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? Okay, so the amendment has passed. And Wasan, please send it to me whenever you get the chance. Um, awesome. Okay, so are there any other comments, questions, or amendments?
I would just like to add my comment, but so this international, it's like for international students, it might not be required only for the pandemic, right? Like if they are supposed like in another country, and I might be due to another reason, like after the pandemic is over and all. So this might still be required for them. Like so I think it's gonna. I mean, it will be needed at all times. Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else? Other comments or questions? Because this resolution has been this is the third time or fourth time I think we're seeing it. So unless it gets tabled, then we have to vote on it tonight. So is there anything else that you guys would like to change about it? Okay, so if there is nothing else that you guys would like to change, it looks like we can move on to voting. All those in favor of adopting resolution 2020-F4-903, please say aye.
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 All that opposed, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? Okay, this resolution has passed. So the next order of business is new business. And first we have resolution 2020-F06-1103. Wasan, would you like to read it?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to apologize ahead of time. There's a lot of text here, mainly so that we can provide as much rationale as possible as we kind of present this to the academic senate, to administrators, so on and so forth. So it is a little long, so sorry for that. So resolution 2020-F06-1103, a progressive grading system for online learning. Whereas the student body faces a number of challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic, including the transition to hybrid, remote, and on-campus learning. The undergraduate student government recognizes the strain this places on faculty, graduate teaching assistants, and students. And whereas the transition to online hybrid learning occurred 7 months ago, and while the educational experience has improved, the situation largely remains the same. Courses from the spring and summer semesters maintain the same, if not greater workload, and external stressors, rather than decline, have only increased for the entire campus community. Student testimonials indicate online courses have significantly increased the amount of work assigned in courses compared to when these same courses were taught in person. And whereas this proposal, which we will refer to as Universal Pass, aims to create a culture of healing and equity as we all live through this pandemic together. The proposal is thus: all students will receive credit for courses taken during the 2020-2021 academic year. Students may earn a letter grade of A, B, or C from a point system at the discretion of the professors. Additionally, this proposal suggests that in tandem with the Universal Pass policy, students shall have the option to elect to take their courses for credit, CR. And whereas an increase in online learning disparities, which include but are not limited to lack of conducive learning environments, inability to attend synchronous lectures due to work schedules affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, considerable time differences in the case of international students, amongst other issues that may affect students' mental well-being and consequently academic performance. In fact, mental health concerns have increased precipitously and depression has tripled in adults. Additionally, the results of the 2020 presidential election, the atmosphere of uncertainty it has created is another key stressor that should be taken into consideration given the effect it may have on the academic performance of students. Students, especially freshmen, are taking on their role with extreme aptness, and this universal pass grading system more accurately reflects that. Students are not approaching university coursework during this unprecedented time with the intention to underperform, but are working hard to adapt and be extremely flexible given this new and in some cases difficult online learning environment. Therefore, given these extreme circumstances, supportive action is necessary now more than ever. The UIC student body is composed of individuals striving to not only excel, but take advantage of the vast learning opportunities the university has to offer. This proposal serves as a means to relieve some of the consequential, unwarranted pressures of learning in the midst of a global pandemic. And whereas faculty at UIC have been tasked with the extremely difficult job of moving almost all classes to a virtual format. Many faculty have struggled with online platforms, have taught blank screens or empty classrooms, and have faced numerous emails from students concerned about their grades. This proposal aims to ameliorate these COVID-19 related issues by removing the onus of extraneous academic pressure from students. This will allow students to better learn through passion for the subject without concerns of failing due to circumstances outside of their control. This should reduce some of the strains professors feel as the faculty-student relationship improves, grading becomes simpler, classroom participation increases, and fewer concerned student emails are sent to professors. This also aims to reduce concerns of cheating and academic dishonesty. Rather than turning to a technological arms race between innovative cheaters and advanced webcam AI software, we hope to reduce the pressures some students feel to justify cheating. And whereas MIT, alongside other universities, are providing academic provisions and safety nets for the fall 2020 semester. As of October 16th, over 2,000 signatories have signed on to an open letter asking for grading policy changes at UIC for the fall 2020 semester. Clearly, the need for change exists. And whereas an August report by the National Institute for Learning Outcomes Assessment, authored by a UIUC faculty member, which surveyed hundreds of colleges nationwide, produced the following list of do's and don'ts. List is here just to really quickly summarize it. All it's saying, it's saying a lot of important things, but one important thing is that it's saying is like it's sort of our job as academics, as students, as people in the sort of like atmosphere to make sure to do the least harm possible as we kind of get through this time together. So at the highest level, Universal Pass would engage all 5 do points and address all 5 do not points. It also presents UIC the opportunity to spearhead a grading policy that improves the well-being and success of all students, faculty, and staff. Then, let it be resolved that USG endorses the Universal Pass grading system as described in paragraph 3. A list of frequently asked questions may be found in Appendix A. A list of select student testimonials can be found in Appendix B. A growing list of colleges and universities that have adopted grading policy changes for the fall 2020 can be found in Appendix C. Let it be further resolved that we recognize that there is no perfect one-size-fits-all solution to the situation, but this universal pass system will do the least harm and create the greatest benefit to students, faculty, and administrators. We are open to the development of alternative, progressive grading systems to suit the unique needs of the student body in this pandemic. However, inaction is not an option. And then we kind of go into some nice FAQs in case anybody has time at any point to kind of peruse these. But again, like we want to make sure that anyone who is like looking at this resolution is like wondering like why we might want to put this together has all the information that it entails. But I want to bring everyone's attention to just a couple of like really quick like key points because obviously like I just said a lot of words. Essentially what we're asking for here is to guarantee every single student on this campus to get either an A, B, or C, or to be able to elect to get credit, but nobody would fail through this pandemic. And professors would also be able to retain whatever sort of grading point distribution that they would want. So yeah, that's everything.
Thank you. Okay, so does anyone have any comments or questions? I would like to open up the floor for discussion. Tega?
Just to give the House a standpoint of where some faculty and advisors stand, I shared the draft of this resolution with Dean Schumacher and 2 other associate deans of student affairs on the West Side, and the general feedback was rather positive, with Dean Agard actually specifically stating that with a hybrid mode of instruction, it would be logical to have a hybrid or updated grading policy. I also got some joint statements from some advisors at CUPPA, which is the College of Urban Planning and Public Administration, and from Carlos Lopez and Sharon Hayes, who are academic advisors. They say, we are in support of the proposed fall 2020 Universal Pass and credit, no credit policy. Students are going through much more stress than they have ever been before, taking online courses, a learning system that is far from perfect, and based on how a good proportion of faculty have framed their courses this semester, definitely more challenging. Based on trends from our academic advising sessions, many first-year students predominantly are struggling to learn properly due to poor learning environments. Students are affected by the current pandemic, political and economic crisis, along with mental health issues being caused by the stress they are under. Putting measures in place to ensure that no student fails this semester would alleviate some of the stress and still allow them to learn the course and not have to feel the burden of possibly receiving a poor grade. Kate Lowe, who is the Director of Undergraduate Studies at CUPPA, says, I support this measure. I think that students are going through a lot with this pandemic and this current economic and political environment. I think universal path and to opt in for credit will alleviate stress and facilitate genuine learning. I don't think most of our students meant to have 15 hours or more of online coursework per week when they became UIC students, and this would be a beneficial accommodation. And aside from this, the main critique from the majority of these individuals who provided feedback was the potential impact on post-undergraduate education and employment. However, they did note that there's to understand.
Yes, give me
Someone speaking. Anyway, they did know there's very much good understanding of the current state of the world. Even schools who wouldn't generally accept the pass fail and transcript will still, without bias, consider students with pass fails on the transcripts, provided that the university that they're coming from had a universal pass fail policy, which is what we are proposing. There are also concerns about this policy promoting indolence among students. It may, but this would only be a small proportion of the undergraduate student body, and the vast majority should not be punished for other students' incompetences. Most importantly, the Credit No Credit petition that emphasized the need for the change to the grading policy has some really great comments, and I'd encourage all of you to give them a read. This really extends the need for a grading policy change. Thank you.
Thank you, Tega. So I see that there is a few hands raised. So can we go with Mohammed and then Quinn and then Kayla?
Okay, thank you, Daisy. I have a general question about the effects of this possible resolution. Starting with the sort of the general effects, like after this pandemic is hopefully over by the next academic year, how will the possible opting credits transfer over for like new classes? Will students who opt into this be considered B students, C students in that class? How will they opt over? Because for some classes, as you know, you need like a certain grade in order to move on to a higher class. So how would that work?
Yeah, so I want to start by saying again that the general structure, as in the universal pass aspect of this, is not opt-in. So everybody would be guaranteed to pass this semester, right? To add on to that, right, the opt-in portion, which is to opt in for credit. So if you feel the need to, again, like differentiate that, you can always decide to end up opting in for credit for this semester. How would that affect students in terms of like future grades? Like it would really just depend upon like the individual department / major. So if it is like a major required course, we are looking to kind of like fall back on what had been happening over the spring, where essentially like those students were eligible to opt in for credit on those specific courses, regardless of like the kind of prereq aspect of them.
Okay, thank you.
Quinn?
Yeah, so mainly I feel like you're gonna get a lot of pushback on this because it's universal pass. I think that there needs to be some change in terms of like grading policies for this semester. I think that expecting this to be the exact same as any other semester is ridiculous, and I think this is like a great first stepping stone. But I can't imagine this version of it passing through passing through teachers, because the failing part of this exists on purpose, right? Like if you don't understand content in one class and then that content builds on itself in the next class, there's a reason that you would have to retake the course, right? So for that fact, I'm not sure. I think that there would need to be something different to this. I think this is fantastic. It looks great. But there's going to be a lot of pushback in terms of I think that specific problem. So I don't know if there's anything that you would like to say to that.
Yeah, we absolutely anticipate a lot of pushback. I think that's a good point. It's a really important point, of course, to talk specifically about how courses that allow students to fail, of course, like why would you have a class that lets anyone fail in the first place, right? And so again, thinking about it from that kind of perspective, the fact that you do need these lessons and you do really need to kind of structure yourself before moving forward into like the next level of whatever it is so that you're not really struggling in that spot as well. That's a really important point. Our counter argument there would be, of course, the fact that like through this pandemic, even the act of like taking classes and the act of really kind of showing this sort of aptitude to be able to adjust to this online format, to be able to like stay and sit in front of your computer for the 15 hours or so, or however long you have classes, that in and of itself shows like extraordinary ability. And we would argue that a lot of external factors do play a role here, and which is why we kind of see this as a necessitated measure. But of course, like the other point is like, I do want to ask for as much as possible with the expectations that I might not get everything.
Thank you. Can we have Kayla?
Yeah, so
I see like this main question, I guess, is also still my question that's like on the screen here. But just to clarify, would grad schools see that there was a universal pass in the university on our transcript somehow? Because coming from an extremely selfish point here, I have worked my ass off this semester and I've done extremely well. And so it would be great if like that was still reflected on my transcript and not like, okay, there was a universal pass, like that's why she did better than any semester. So, and I'm sure I'm not the only student. So I just like to clarify if, like what grad schools would be seeing for that.
Yeah, definitely. So we kind of touch on that in like point 5 here. So specifically, right, if you are a student who is, so this is like mainly again, like if you're a student who is like already high achieving, like you're still going to get an A in the class, or you're going to get a B, or like whatever it is that like you are expecting to get in that class. Importantly, right, like it retains that sort of like aspect of high achievingness, like studying and like whatever, to like do well in these classes. You can always have like there's no necessarily, like as far as I understand, need to have this be like advertised to all graduate schools. We do include like the option, of course, to like have professors like leave transcript annotations where they would essentially like describe what had happened this semester, and the university would of course provide them with like best practices on how to do that. But from what I understand, you wouldn't need anything extra in terms of like what gets sent over to grad schools, unless you opt in for credit.
Thank you. So I know Michelle had her hand raised.
Yeah, I had a tentative question. So do you know what made them opt for the universal pass and the credit no credit last semester that's stopping them from doing it again this semester?
So they did not opt into the universal pass aspect of this. They only opted the credit no credit. And that was, again, just like the really drastic nature of moving all the classes online in the middle of March that allowed that to happen. Now, one important point that I do want to make, right, like the difference between like us and like what happened in the spring, it is a little bit of a stigma to opt into credit no credit. Like that exists, and we kind of want to push past that. Of course, like that's both stigma like on the student body side, but also like on the employer / graduate school side. Like if you see somebody who's coming in with these sorts of things, I also believe that like it's completely valid for someone to do this, but I understand like why someone might feel a little hesitant to kind of opt into a system like what was in the spring.
Thank you. Can we hear from Megan?
Yeah, I just had a really quick question. So is there a reason why they're not opting into the same, sorry, this is like a repeat of Michelle's, but like why they're not opting into the spring one where if you have above a D, it's a pass, and then below a F, it's a no credit, or are they just like...
So we've been asking Provost Poser for the same thing since like May, right? Like since we started like at USG for this term. And the biggest reason that she gave, of course, was like the fact that this might affect people who are applying for colleges, like postgraduate colleges, who are applying for like jobs or something like that, where a professor might see, or like an employer might see that you've opted in for credit this semester and look unfavorably upon that. I personally like disagree. Like I believe that anybody would see the kind of circumstances that we're all going through and respect any sort of decision that you might choose to make. But that's the rationale that was given to us by Provost Poser, both at the beginning of the summer and at the end of the summer.
Thank you. Can we hear from me?
Oh, so hi. So one of the things that I think that like the resolution should be passed, because I actually have friends that like actually online at home, and they actually doesn't even study with a professor in UIC. They study on like something called U Commons, and then like they don't have like the experiment with like the professor. Like they have to be specifically approached to one professor, and they may not even like them, and like the schedule is like really messed up for that. But like for my friend, it's really messed up because like they have to wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning to study class. So I think that like make this resolution pack is like really helpful for that person, because it's like tough for them to like wake up early in the morning, because some of the class is like 4 o'clock in the morning too. I think that's one of the things that I want to talk about. That's all.
Thank you. Can we hear from Hannah?
Yeah, the one other, okay, so two comments. One is if something were to pass that resembles something like this, I kind of wonder what the teachers' like response would be in terms of like, do you guys think it's reasonable or not reasonable, but do you guys think it's plausible that teachers would be like, oh, this is now somewhat easier, let me change my typical grading scale. So now a 95 is an A and there's like a much greater range that's a B. And like a C range is different. Like, would teachers respond to it in that way? I know ideally they wouldn't, but like that is a possibility because just depending on kind of how they see their relationship with their students and what they think a grade actually means. And then my second comment is this might be like the more cautious part of like my opinion, but I think like so the rationale that Provost Poser gave you, Lawson, in terms of like not knowing how grad schools are going to like see things or whatever, I don't necessarily know that it's our call to say that they will see past the fact that we're in a pandemic and that they won't react to it negatively. Because obviously we don't want to make decisions or try to make decisions that are going to potentially negatively impact us if we can find a way to prevent having to make that change so that we can still perform better under more pressure, which is unfortunate for us, but I would rather not see us suggest something that could have a potential negative impact if there was a better way to go about achieving the same ends, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll start out with the first question, I guess. So you had mentioned that this might make classes more difficult in some cases. Now, we don't advocate for professors to like change the way that they distribute their classes. Like we don't want to like stay on that like hyper like personal level. So we like give like professors like whatever it is that they would like to do. And I don't think we could ask them to change that. However, I would anticipate though that professors wouldn't necessarily see this as making classes easier. It would just make it like less sort of intimidating to pass a class. So it would only affect really like the students who are like struggling during this time. So people who are getting like a D in a course. And to kind of touch on your second point then, right? Specifically, like you had mentioned how this might reflect on graduate school admissions. Now, yeah, like I agree, like I have no idea what a graduate school admissions counselor might be thinking about this, but I do know that this wouldn't necessarily be something that shows up as part of your academic record or as part of your academic transcript, unless you are opting for credit, in which case it would show up as a CR. So I don't think that it would negatively affect anyone's grades in that sort of like stigmatized sense, with the exception for those who really opt into credit.
Thank you. So can we hear from Sarah?
Yeah, so I had a quick question. So like there's been a lot of talk about how next semester will also probably be mostly online, just like the semester. So would this be a first semester thing, or would it be like for the entire year it would be like up like an ABC pass?
Yeah, this would be for the whole entire year. Sorry, I was trying to scroll to the point where I put it, but I just scrolled past it. Yeah, for the entirety of academic 2020 to 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Quinn?
Yeah, so two things. First to Hannah's point, we could act like UIC does have actually a lot of graduate schools on campus. So we could actually ask the admissions committees of those grad schools what they think will be happening if something like this passed. That is an option. Secondly, you mentioned that it shows a lot of resilience in order to just show up to class and during this and everything like that. And I feel gross saying this, but like that still doesn't teach me calculus. Showing resiliency doesn't teach me the necessary step to get me to whatever I need to get to. So like I'm just repeating myself, I guess. But I think there will be a lot of pushback in terms of the necessary components that come with going to the next level in whatever courses you're taking.
Okay, thank you for your comment. So there has been a lot of debate on this, and I would like to propose a question for you guys. If you're because it seems like there's a lot of questions about this. Does anyone have any suggestions on how to change it so that we can make sure that more people are helped by this document, and that you know the provost is more likely to agree to it? Michael?
I think it would be cool if we could try to survey a lot of people who have to wake up at those like crazy times, like 3 in the morning or something like that. Because if it's a number like in the hundreds, I think that's a little bit much to say for those people to wake up that early. And then maybe at least like if they're not going to pass the whole thing in general, maybe they can get those people who are waking up at those times to get that credit option. Because I think they, like anyone would see that like waking up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to do a class is like just too early.
Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, kind of going along with what Representative Fernandez was saying, I was thinking that maybe with these 8 a.m. or these early classes where a lot of students are unable to attend, if we could kind of come to a compromise where, every class is a typical grade distribution that you can see over past years. Maybe, instead of removing the the option to fail completely, maybe require teachers to adjust to that curve such that if, let's say a class has 5% of Fs every semester for the past 8 years on average, they have to cut that they should cut that in half for this COVID semester. So make it 2.5%. So now, we still have, there is still students still have to try they still have to put in some effort, they can't just get away with, not trying or not learning. You still have to learn some, but obviously not as well as you would be learning if we weren't in this situation.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Quinn?
I honestly kind of like sending this as it is because I think this is a really well-written document. And while I don't think that this will get approved, I do think that it's showing them that this is a thing that students want, and I think that this would make it more likely for them to meet us somewhere in the middle with a credit, no credit, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Me?
Oh, so I think that for the credit no credit thing, if they don't want to pass it, I think they should let us pass a portion of people who give them how to say email them about that or something. If a student email the school about how it's struggle for them to wake up and give them a reasonable skill, I think that it should be able to understand for the school to pass this. It's not for every single one in the school, but for a portion that is struggling with the class only. I think so. And yeah.
Thank you. Hannah?
Going off of Representative Crispin's point, I think I do agree. I think we should send it as is. But I do anticipate that they won't make the effort to meet us in the middle, but rather we're still going to have to anticipate what our ideal compromise is. And yeah, I just think we have to be prepared for that is all.
Thank you. Sarah?
I just wanted to maybe we could add something to this. Just I know I saw in Appendix B there was a list of student testimonials about why we should adopt this resolution, and I was thinking that if we could find any professors on campus who were also thinking that this is a good idea, we could put their testimonials in there too, so that they can see that there's professors who are also with this resolution.
Thank you. Tega?
Like I said, I do have testimonials from Dean Schumark, and I've got from 4 deans and the Director of Undergraduate Studies and academic advisors who have spoke with each other and are generally in agreement with this, because based on what the academic advising sessions they have stated that quite a lot of students have complained about having poor learning environments, which basically means they can't do as well as they would usually do, and it's quite unfair that they would be graded as they would when we're not even attending normal classes. So in terms of professor support and like faculty support, I think we got quite good faculty support, because I did have a professor this morning who was quite surprised that the school wasn't offering upgraded grading policy. So I do think in terms of faculty, we do have very good support.
Thank you. Quinn?
Sorry, I'm sorry for talking so much. But I think that actually a really interesting idea would be to have this for as like a blanket policy for like pretty much all classes, and then the people in charge could go through and be like, well, these classes this doesn't work for, right? So like this probably wouldn't work for like a mathematics course because it builds on itself or whatever. But it does work for English because like turning in your assignments for English is generally enough to not trying to make anyone upset. But you'll learn English by writing, whereas even by doing math, you won't necessarily learn it. You have to actually understand it. So I think that having someone with like go through courses with a kind of a fine-tooth comb and figure out the ones that this does work for and this that it does not would be a possibility.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, suggestions? And just as a reminder, we will be voting on this next week. So feel free to keep thinking about it over the course of the week as well. Feel free to reach out to Wasan because I'm sure he'd be happy to take suggestions. But yeah, Tega?
I was just going to say, like, reiterate it. You should read through the comment section of the credit, no credit petition, just to understand quite a lot of the students' point of view, because I don't know how many of us there is here, but we're just a small proportion of the undergraduate student body, and there is quite a lot of comments in there, which gives a very good and clear depiction of why people think we need an upgraded grading policy.
Thank you. Other comments or questions?
Yeah, again, like please feel free to reach out to myself or Representative Obire, who's also a co-sponsor and has really helped push the button on this.
Okay, are there any last thoughts before we move on? Okay, so we will be voting on this next week. So keep thinking about it. Keep thinking about suggestions for how to approach this. And please feel free to bring that to us at the next meeting. So next we have resolution. Oh God, hold on. Give me 1 second. 2020-FO6-1104. Wasan, would you like to present?
Absolutely. Thanks again. So this is resolution 2020-F06-1104, and it's titled an Ethnic Studies General Education Requirement, chief sponsored by myself and Representative Gail Taylor. And sorry, another long one. But it reads, whereas the University of Illinois Chicago serves one of the most diverse student populations in the country, at this institution, as with society at large, racial prejudice and bigotry exist in a very real manner, despite best efforts to dismantle them. Programs and initiatives such as the Office of Diversity, Centers for Cultural Understanding and Social Change, and Ethnic Studies departments were developed to curate cultural awareness in efforts to combat prejudice within the student body. The success of these programs in building community and driving conscious education indicate their necessity for a healthy campus. Students, faculty, administrators, and society as a whole stand to gain by providing students with a well-rounded education that prepares us to be civic leaders with courses grounded in anti-racist, anti-xenophobic, and anti-bigotry teachings. This proposal aims to be one step on the path to a world without racial inequalities, a world with respect for everyone. Ethnic studies is described as the study of the social, political, economic, and historical perspectives of America's diverse racial and ethnic groups. And whereas the demands of Black students at UIC released this summer in response to police brutality against Black people and anti-Black racism call for UIC to, quote, 3, require mandatory general education courses on structural racism and dismantling whiteness for all students, end quote. The proposal listed here for an ethnic studies general education requirement would fulfill this critical need. We, the associated students of UIC, deserve to learn about the histories of our ancestors in this country. And whereas UIC's undergraduate population is 34% Latinx, 20% Asian American, 8% African American, 7% international, and 5% other. A study conducted by Stanford University found that ethnic studies requirements adopted at the high school level led to an increase in GPA by 1.4 points, an increase in attendance by 21%, and an increase in credits earned by 23 credits. The study also found the largest gain in Hispanic students, UIC's largest student demographic. A Cal State study showed that students who completed one ethnic studies course graduated at a rate over 20% higher than students who completed none. This is largely attributed to the amount of advising and supplemental education ethnic studies faculty members take on, which can be seen at UIC in the form of LARIS, AAAN, NASP, and ACE. There's currently no dedicated academic support unit for Asian/Asian American and Arab/Arab American identifying students, forcing cultural centers like the AARC and the Arab MC and faculty units like GLASS to shoulder this burden. And whereas the struggle for ethnic studies has a decades-long history of organizing and protest, in 1968, San Francisco and Berkeley college students began to demand an ethnic studies program at their university in response to geopolitical events and the termination of BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, person of color faculty, among other reasons. Students formed a massive coalition titled the Third World Liberation Front, composed of Black, Latin American, Filipino, Mexican American, Chinese, Native American, and Asian American student associations. There was enormous support from the community for this movement. However, their organizing efforts met with fierce opposition from administrators. This led to the longest student strike in US history and one of the most expensive in UC Berkeley history. The struggle for ethnic studies at UIC has a similar history. Latin American and Latin Studies, LALS, was founded from student organizing that demanded a curriculum reflective of its neighboring Latinx community. It took 19 years of student activism to launch the Global Asian Studies class program at UIC. In 1990, Black, Latinx, and Palestinian students led a peaceful overnight sit-in to call for a mandatory course on cultural diversity, a Middle Eastern studies program, and an Afro-American cultural center in response to racially motivated hate incidents. Yet to this day, these programs remain underfunded and face uncertainty. Whereas UIC is a minority-serving institution and duly designated as both an ANAPISI since 2010 with funding from the Department of Education totaling $5.6 million, the campus is also a Hispanic-serving institution since 2016 with the funding of $5.3 million. Diversity is a major selling point to increase enrollment, but a critical aspect of that diversity is creating a safe and culturally aware university environment. Students deserve a diverse faculty body who represent a diverse student population, and faculty deserve an environment of cultural and social consciousness where they can flourish. And whereas this presents an extraordinary opportunity for UIC to improve its work on the recruitment, retention, and success of Black students, faculty, and staff. By allowing students to confront these difficult topics, UIC promotes a culture of compassionate introspection by educating the student body with deeper understanding of the histories of this country, ensuring students graduate with heightened awareness, understanding, and concern for the state of the world that will soon be in their hands. Over the past few years, hate crimes have also risen at college campuses. Students across all disciplines deserve this form of education, as similar calls for cultural competency in law, medicine, and STEM disciplines arise at this campus and across the country. And whereas the California State University, CSU system, the largest university system in the country, implemented an ethnic studies requirement this summer. It is important to note CSU trustees voted to implement a broad ethnic studies requirement in direct contention with the calls of student organizers who asked for a more specific and intentional requirement. This resulted in a bill, AB 1460, proposed and passed in the California State Legislature to implement the will of the people. This is not the same as the trustees' proposal, and when Governor Newsom signs this bill into law in November, AB 1460 will supersede the trustees' decision. Let this document serve as a proposal and list of courses with room for the 5 campus units listed below to add specific courses, rather than the courses determined by campus administration or the Board of Trustees. In Illinois, similar efforts are underway at the high school level through the Illinois General Assembly Bill SB 1268, and this proposal would make UIC a leader in higher education. Then, let it be resolved that the USG calls for the creation of a new ethnic studies general education requirement where all students from the class of 2025 onward enrolled at UIC must complete 3 credit hours in a course of their choosing from a list of predetermined courses. This list of courses can be found below. Appendix B enumerates acronyms referenced here. And the courses span Global Asian Studies, Black Studies, LALS, Gender and Women's Studies, and Native American Studies. Importantly, I want to note that this course list is not complete. I'm still in the process of meeting with the various department heads and do plan on amending this by next week.
All right. Thank you. So I would like to open up the floor for discussion. And does anyone have any comments or questions or suggestions? Matthew?
Yes, there was like a misspelling earlier in the document. I think it was Filipino. I was like, oh yeah, it was like further down, a little bit down.
Oh, I can actually just answer that question right now. Filipino, the spelling with the P is from that specific student organization from the 1960s.
Okay.
Yeah. Good catch, though.
Any other comments or suggestions? So I have a quick question. Maybe I missed this. But so that would add another general education requirement, but would it just add one or would it replace another one?
Excuse me. Yeah, so we're just looking to add one. It's just one 3 credit hour class that you'd have to take for all freshmen.
Sounds good. Thank you. And then I would also like to encourage you to add honors classes to that as well, because I think that would also be really beneficial for honors college students as well. Michelle?
Hi. I think we said last week when we discussed this maybe that it could replace the foreign language requirement like as an alternative. Like, is that a possibility?
Yeah, so just to kind of like in general talk a little bit about gen eds, like they have put in this like really extensive like report on how they're gonna like reform gen eds. So with this like addition, I'm not necessarily looking to like replace or like reform or like change any of the other gen eds, just because of the fact that they've already kind of like gotten some groundwork down on what that might look like going forward. But if there is like a specific kind of like call to change like the foreign language, I know we like talked about that last week. We can definitely like research and like work towards one.
Thank you.
Other comments? I have a question. So if that gets implemented, who would be required to complete that requirement? Because I know there's some of us who are juniors and seniors, and I don't know if that would be required for us. So what would that look like?
Yeah, we're calling for students who are joining in the class of 2025 onwards.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Any amendments? As a reminder, we'll vote on this next week, so you still have the rest of the week to keep thinking about this. Um, this is going to be the last call. Is there any other comments or questions for this resolution before we move on? Okay, so if not, then we can move on to the next resolution, which is Resolution 2020-F5-403. So Aitana, I don't know if your mic is better now, but can you try to read it? Okay. So it looks like it's broken. So if you want, I can read it for you. Is that okay? Oh, Sarah? Okay, sure. That's okay. Uh, sure, yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so this is a resolution 2020-F5-403, sponsored by Chair of Public Relations, Ms. Atana Nadala. Whereas, in addition to the purchase of COVID-19 supplies in the 2020-F1-402, this new resolution deals with purchasing a stand that will help distribute the items bought. Let it be resolved, PRC shall purchase these items. The first one would be the 3 hygiene stations for a total of $974.85. Oh, okay. Sorry. And then let it be further resolved that these items will aid in UIC's COVID-19 safety precaution efforts.
Awesome. Thank you. So I would like to open up the floor for discussion. And does anyone have any comments or questions? Okay. Again, this is a resolution that we will also vote on next week. So if there are no comments or questions, then We can move on to the next order of business, which is um, okay. The next order of business is items for discussion. So, would anyone like to? Does anyone have any items for discussion? Okay. So if there are no items for discussion, then we can move on to the next order of business, which is announcements. Does anyone have any announcements?
I don't know if this is an announcement or an item for discussion, but I do wanted to encourage all members to put their pronouns, if they feel comfortable, in their Zoom name, because usually we would have placards that include those pronouns, and I just want to make sure that I am addressing you correctly when I'm writing the minutes. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. That's a really good point. Any other items for, or I'm sorry, any other announcements?
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Yes.
So like if I change my name like here, will it come back for the next like Zoom meeting as long as I'm
No.
using this link?
No, I don't think so. I'm not too sure about the link, but I think you have to go actually into the Zoom website and change it from there. Michelle?
Actually, when you change it, it says there's an option to check remember my name for future meetings. So that's probably how that's gonna save it.
Cool, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. Any other announcements? I have one. Um, please go ahead and sign up for a meeting with me. I'm missing, I think, another 7 representatives. Um, so I will send the link one more time. Let's see. Okay, this is the link. So if you still have not signed up for a meeting with me, please go do that right now, because the meetings start as early as tomorrow, and they will be on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So please do your best to sign up for one tonight if possible. And if the time doesn't work for you, then please do let me know, and we can schedule a different time. And additionally, one more announcement is if you still have not turned in your academic eligibility form, please do that. That also applies to the executive board as well. And does anyone have any comments, questions, or other announcements? Okay, so if there are no more announcements, we can move on to the next order of business, which is adjournment. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Would anyone like to motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn.
Would anyone like to second?
Second.
Second.
I second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All that opposed, please say nay. Does anyone abstain? Okay, the ayes have it. So this meeting is now adjourned at 7:52 p.m.